While looking to launch your business to even greater heights, change and challenge are inevitable. But if your business is agile, those obstacles can become opportunities. Opportunities to reach new customer segments, add new supply chain partners, uncover better business processes, find new skill sets, and so much more. The most successful and fastest growing businesses don't just react. They identify the opportunities and thrive. They're ready for what comes next. Are you? Please join me in welcoming NetSuite Senior Vice President of Growth and Operations, Sam Levy.
Welcome. I mean, this isn't the Journey concert. This might be the biggest tent ever, though. I don't know. It's a half-cylinder. But welcome back to day 2 of SuiteWorld. You know, my mom always told me this one, which was, what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. You've heard this line before. But I always think that the best is yet to come, which is the insights and connections that we get to make here stay with us forever. So this session is all about you, and it's all about our customers, their stories, their growth journeys, their companies, and I get to MC it and talk all about that. We're going to hear from some amazing stories about growth, and I think that we'll all be able to draw some conclusions that you can take back to your businesses for best practices, and really all systems grow in your respective business. So as we look forward, I'd like to start with a little bit of a stat, though, is NetSuite for 26 years has been about growth and helping companies grow. And the biggest path and measurement that we see today in the public markets has been about an IPO or SPAC. And since 2020, I am proud to say that 290 of our customers have chosen NetSuite as the platform to go into the public markets, which is a massive testament to what the product does, but to really what businesses need to succeed. And that's an amazing piece of it. So many of our customers, though, rely on NetSuite every day in their journey, and all of you are probably here to hear about product features and functionality, but that's not my keynote. Right? Each of our customers look at these growth levers in their business, and you've probably seen this slide before, and you're going to hear it more from Gary and Brian tomorrow about product features and modules. Everything from how you acquire and grow customers, and all the modules competing within there, optimizing cash and profit, and all the features and functionality to help you. But for us, I want to look at it not from a feature function set. I don't wake up today, as Gary will say, to do ERP. I don't wake up to do CRM, but I may wake up today to acquire and grow our customers. Or I'm waking up today to deal with optimizing cash and profits in my business. And so I'm going to look at the lens a little differently today, which is the conversations that we have around the same value streams of acquiring and growing customers. What does that really mean? And how have companies gone before you, and how are they driving that in their business today? Hiring and empowering employees is critical. As we know, the talent war is out there. Creating and delivering products and services in each of our respective industries is crucial. And then ultimately, that financial measurement with cash and profits. So let's look at each one of these as we tee up into the segment. You know, acquiring and growing customers is probably really challenging for all businesses, especially in today's climate. And I look at this as probably the expansion of different channels. You know, for example, if you're a product-based business out there, you might be in wholesale and B2B, or you might be direct to consumer, and you're looking then to expand those different channels. If you're a services organization, similarly, I think you have the same type of piece of it where maybe you started with a channel-based, distribution and client engagement model, and then you add a direct channel to augment and support the growth you need. So channel expansion is a real good topic. International expansion, though, is that second major growth lever that we see. And there is a lot of friction that happens with international expansion, and whether it's across borders, whether it's languages, how do you manage the friction and how does NetSuite help you in that area? You know, acquisitions have been around as the third lever for a long time of how we grow market share. And sometimes companies acquire small and needed functionality in their acquisitions, and sometimes it's a larger acquisition that expands distribution. And the key essential for all that acquisition is how do we integrate them? How do you as an organization bring them all together to help your company grow? And better visibility that we'll talk about, better actions, better insight, that scale. And acquisitions can be very tricky. We'll talk about that. There's also an important consideration I want you to think about that's not here on this slide, which is what is the balance in your organization as you think forward of new customer acquisition versus maintaining your current customer base? And so it'll be really interesting to see how these organizations have continued to grow and acquire customers. So you can't do it without talent. And everyone has a talent war out there. And for many companies out there, they look at it as how we attract new talent from applicant tracking. But one growth lever for companies is how do we go acquire people and attract new talent, especially in these rapid growth phases. It's all about people and can I hire them on board and quickly as possible support our growth. But equally, though, is keeping talent and learning paths. We talk about that within NetSuite, but the learning paths of how do we keep talent and to scale your business. You know, knowledge from our employees is really critical. And for a lot of people, they look to find out how do we career build and career path our employees with managing talent throughout the organization. And so I look at it as how is AI taking a part of that in that workforce of onboarding and helping employees do more and more with less. The next one we'll look at in the value stream piece of it is creating and delivering products or services. And it's key. I mean, if you think about probably half of the audience is dealing with supply chain disruption and how that category of do you insource or do you outsource? What's happened since 2020 with the supply chain disruptions? And really importantly is, do I stay as a single supplier? Do I have multiple suppliers? How do you stratify that piece of it? And so supplier management becomes really, really critical for growth. And that last one you see, especially we see it in today's world, is that collaboration and partnership out there. And one big lever I see companies doing is collaborating more and more. I think of Oracle collaborating more and more with our partners. I think of partners in this room with our customers collaborating. But collaboration certainly enables us to deliver more products, certainly more services, and that we wouldn't be able to do on our own. So it's really critical as we look at that. And then what's really the last piece I say, which is the important, and not just to acquire customers and keep them and have the right talent on board, but how does that result into the financial success of the company? And many NetSuite customers are either private equity or VC backed, and they end up securing a lot of extra funding to help them pursue their growth strategy. And as they say, cash is king. It's a critical element for everyone's growth is, are we putting money to work, and is it producing the financial metrics that make our companies and our shareholders happy? But as you think about that, in order to optimize your cash and profits, you know, a lot of companies need to think about scaling their processes. And for the hyperscalers that go from 0 to $5 million, those processes are great, but they're not going to be the same processes that get you to 50 million. And likewise, when you hit the 50 million revenue mark, those processes won't get a company to 500 million. And this is where automation becomes really critical, is how do you eliminate manual tasks? And you know, if you're not providing the value add, you know, how do you close your books faster? How do you get cash faster? How do you grow faster? So it's going to be, you know, those value streams that we'll talk about, not from a feature functionality, but I'm going to talk about it in the lens of how are these companies doing it. So let's invite up our first customer, SymphonyAI. Play the video.
SymphonyAI is changing the game for the world's largest industries with its AI technology. Its predictive and generative AI products help businesses solve challenges in retail, financial services, industrial manufacturing, media, and enterprise IT. Since its founding in 2017, SymphonyAI has grown into a major player in enterprise AI, with more than 2,000 customers globally and over 2,500 employees. Welcome to the stage, SymphonyAI's Chief Information Officer, Bill Bragg.
Bill.
Sam.
Okay.
Thank you.
What do you think? I mean, this is
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Seeing all these people, and you know the story about nobody sort of tells stories about Vegas. I think they're going to tell a lot of stories about SuiteWorld, right? Some good stuff.
Please do. Hopefully they tag you in the posting too.
Yeah.
All right, Bill. So SymphonyAI has been a hot topic, but they probably don't know a lot about SymphonyAI. Maybe just give a quick little intro.
So the company itself has been around since 2017, and it was really a set of divisions focused on verticals. So if you think about all the artificial intelligence activity out there these days, there's a lot of technology and tools that have to sort of start to help you build up from there. We decided to take the approach of, it's about the business applications, it's about the payroll clerk, it's about the artificial intelligence sort of team that has been overworked, and how can we take applications and help them to get there faster? So each of our divisions, really now a vertical line in our business, came together into one company, and we really sort of formed our operating model, and that's where NetSuite came into play.
That is going to be really interesting. So maybe the audience, I bet you half of the audience is probably in verticals or industries that you serve. What are those?
So our financial services focus is both for investment trading as well as detecting and preventing financial crime. Super important on a global basis. These days, as governments and countries compete, sanctions management and helping insurance companies and banks stay compliant is what we do. And artificial intelligence really speeds that process along and reduces the false positives that a bank may see in transactions, and at the same time improves what we can offer for their credentials.
Sounds like a relevant topic for today's purposes in business. I think I hear about that all the time. Well, this is a really exciting piece of SymphonyAI. Is you're recently on Inc. 5000. Congratulations on this major growth curve that you're on.
Thank you.
You know, I think maybe the audience, has this been something that just happened in the last year, or how is that kind of about with the rise of AI?
It's interesting because as I looked at your story of acquisition and growth, right? There's inquisitive growth, and at the same time, you've got to continue to add new labels and grow your customers. And that forces you as a software company to think about different types of applications that really change how the business works, right? We often as CIOs say the word transformation, but I think artificial intelligence, we have to change the word to radicalization. There's a phenomenal change in how we're going to do our work. Seeing the NetSuite AI features yesterday on the Keynote, that gave me a whole sort of thought about how we're going to reshape what we do internally in our back office as a result of it.
And you've had a lot of growth. I mean, this might be interesting, but have you capitalized on that growth by entering in new products, or is it new distribution channels? Is it new geographies?
It's a combination of all of those. So we've grown from what was originally probably about 10 countries in our footprint to up to 33 now. And a lot of that came from existing product lines, but also acquisitions we brought in. So in that growth stage, it really forced us to confront, okay, what are we going to unify across our company, and what platforms are we going to do that on?
Yeah, I mean, up to 33 countries is pretty amazing.
It is.
Growth, yeah. So maybe you can share with how decisions get made to go into a new country or a region, for the audience.
The fundamental decision process around that growth, if you need to get from 500 million to $1 billion, what are you going to do that? And how big do those customers need to be? And what markets are those customers in? And what value can we bring them? So if I take the retail consumer product goods vertical in our business, a great example is we'll be in some of the large global retailers across the world. We will help understand what's occurring on the shelves. We'll help the retailers understand the price points that are selling. We'll help the consumer by offering rebates back to them through what the company is seeing actually occurring in there. Through our shelf intelligence capability, we start to take a look at those products sell better next to those products. So all of that really improves the process for customers. And when you do that, that opens up opportunities. Hey, we should be looking at, let's take a large company like Chevron who has those stores. A lot of people pop into the gas station, right?
So this will be really interesting then. So as you get into these new markets, I'm just trying to think is you got to run into some obstacles or challenges and
Sure.
Establishing yourself. But is it a push or pull? I mean, do customers take you there or do you push yourself into there?
With artificial intelligence, right now it's very much a pull. Everybody wants to understand how their business can change pretty dramatically through it. And at the same time, with that pull, they start to really understand, okay, we need to shape this business. So it's a consultative sort of conversation that then leads to a channel conversation, which also grows us again, because there's a lot of change in their business and they have to bring in support to be able to change those business. So it's both a channel component as well as really targeting the product for the customer value.
And if you were to break down the channel versus direct maybe piece of your business, do you see one growing faster in certain emerging markets or more main stable?
I think channels, certainly in sort of the G8 countries, are going to continue to expand as people go through the change. But I also see the direct business picking up in emerging markets because they see that the change they have to create is actually to step up to a global operation. So it's a combination of both.
There. Yeah. Well, you're approaching, 2,500 employees now.
We are.
Which is kind of crazy. And it's been probably a sizable amount of things that you've been having to probably to support your growth and go after the growth with AI. How do you manage all this talent? I talked about talent and recruiting and keeping employment, but how do you do it?
I think everybody resonates with the word culture, right? When you come to that work location, whether it's virtual these days or whether it's in person, you come for the opportunity, but you stay for the people, you stay for the growth, you stay for your own personal progression. And for us, that's been a big focus is how do we take all these different companies that were sort of started off as separate divisions and unify as one, right? And that's a principles conversation. That's what we believe in. That's rewarding people. That is encouraging people and developing them. I'm super excited about your learning material from yesterday from the keynote because we really want to put that to work for our own corporation, right? When you onboard a shared service, you want them to come up faster. And I think the learning platform can do that.
Right, the learning paths has been, talking with customers, all of you, this last few days even, most of our customers have said, how do we adopt more of NetSuite? And so the learning paths is certainly a great way with LCS or ACS. Your journey to NetSuite might be a little different than most in here. But for a few years now, maybe talk about how you got to NetSuite and what's going on from your organization to support your growth.
So we had 5 NetSuites, and those 5 NetSuites were very independent. They were run with sort of different global accounting rules and structures. And we really had to say, okay, we got to get to one. We got to have one sort of method for our policies and our processes. And for us, that started with picking the platform, and it was. We didn't have to sort of start where we did, but it was clear that NetSuite had all the pieces we need.
Why didn't you have to choose NetSuite? What happened? How did that come about?
There is others in the marketplace.
But I think you acquired a bunch of companies that already had NetSuite.
And we also, there was a Dynamics out there for those that know that product, and there was advocates for all the platforms. But when we looked at the 33 countries we were coming into, and we looked at the growth that we had to address, as well as I'm going to say the different sort of routes to market that we're going to be growing into, we needed a platform that could do it, and we knew NetSuite could handle that.
Right, that is great. Well, I know with part of NetSuite, our vision is obviously the one Oracle and bringing further Oracle products to market. And you happen to be a unique case as a hyperscaler out there with AI, but I think you also have some OCI in your business piece of it. But why is it so critical, something like OCI and uses with NetSuite, but in your business as well, but picking the right technology partner is so critical for your journey as a company?
You need the strength of those technology partners to really help you provide the strength to the customers at the end of the day, right? Because when a large bank globally comes to us and says, okay, We need to do the compliance work. We need to take a look at how you're going to be able to guarantee us the following things. Having strong partners behind us, technology partners that are global, that understand these problems, that have gone before us, is what makes it happen for us. So that's why we choose things like OCI as a platform, right? It's been around for a number of years. I've used it at other companies. And for us, a number of our customers also demand it. We use multiple hyperscalers, but equally the Oracle platform is a key choice of some of our customers.
That's great. Well, I mean, AI is so topical today, I think, in business. Maybe words of advice of how do you encourage companies to even adopt AI, or how do they? We have our own philosophy, but how do you do it within your business?
I think the first thing is decide where you're going to have your platforms of your business. And if those are well established, understanding what is already occurring as a transformation in there, and then start to think radically about what you're going to do different, because it's not going to be the same. If the process says you're going to do these things this way, don't try and apply AI to that. Think about it in the context of what AI can take out of that process, and how you then reposition the workforce to actually adopt and be more effective with it. Classic use cases are obviously developers. I see that with the Suite Developer AI announcement. That's looking super forward to seeing that. And equally for customer support, customer service, and then in specific vertical industries like we support, we can help dramatically change those processes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great lesson. I mean, everyone wanting to do more, but sometimes I hear from customers all the time is we don't have people to do it. And that curiosity kind of question that came up yesterday was, how do we get curious and explore more there?
I think the most essential thing is maybe while we're not necessarily all working together in an office anymore at the same time in the same place, that's still the essential moments that we have to get together to have those radical design changes in our business. Getting together, spending that concentrated sort of structured time, and then coming out with how we're going to change it is the basis of doing this. You have to do that.
Right. Well, there's a lot of growth in your company, and it's great to be a business partner with you guys. Any other lessons you want to share with the audience just about growth lessons in general? Maybe it's success milestones or channels or takeaways that they can take away from their business.
I think really channels and partnerships are the key, because so many different structures out there on a global basis really make us happen together. You mentioned collaboration with partners in your supply chain. You mentioned collaboration with partners in the go-to-market. It's exactly the same for us. So spending time with the partners, understanding what they can bring to your business and what you can bring to their business for the customers. Spending time with the customers, understanding how they want to engage through the channels, because each of them has their own strategy, especially in sort of the G8 countries.
Right. No, that is great. Well, it's been an amazing story for you guys, and we wish you lots of luck in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think about the channel discussion that you had there about growth markets, and I just think about the partnerships we have in this room, even with NetSuite. There's hundreds of partners that foster our ecosystem, and it's great to see that other customers are embracing the same piece of it. So the next customer we have up is Raw Sugar, so let's hear a little intro on Raw.
Raw Sugar Living is a lifestyle brand that's grown into a major player in health and personal care products, like premium shampoos and lotions, which are rich in natural nutrients thanks to cold-press technology. With products available online and in retailers across the US, Raw Sugar is celebrating 10 years of fueling its mission to promote real, raw authenticity and beauty. Please give a warm round of applause to Raw Sugar Living's Chief Financial Officer, Jonathan Weiss.
How's it going?
Jonathan, all right.
This is amazing.
You like that, huh? It's like the cylinder,
I like
the
that
screen.
too.
I don't know. It is. It's quite daunting, actually, but it's pleasant.
I love it.
So Raw Sugar, when I first got introduced to you, I was thinking, wow, I'm like, Raw Sugar, and I don't know if a lot of people know about the brand, but I was thinking candy, and I'm like, no way, this can't be a candy company. So, just give a little genesis of Raw Sugar.
Well, let me tell you two things. 10 years ago, Ronnie and Donda created this brand, and they had 4 basic ideas that were a little unique to the marketplace. The first, and we're going back in 2014, everyone, one, clean should be in the the main aisle, not in the naturals aisles. It's not should be in the granola section. It should be next to Dial and Dove. The second, you should be proud of what you buy, and it doesn't need to go under the sink. It should go on the countertop. The third, the brand should mean something, and we can talk about that a little more. And the fourth, which is what I call their genius, when everyone was going digitally native, they wanted to go brick and mortar. They thought that there was a relationship with the Targets of the world, the Walgreens of the world, and all the channels that really prioritized the customer and the traffic. And so built the relationships, the partnerships Bill just talked about. And now, 10 years later, we're in a lot of places that we can talk about.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to think about, someone, I wouldn't say it's a new category per se, but taking liquid soap and that piece of it to market and then building a brand around it. Like, let's not go digital native, let's go back to brick and mortar is kind of great. But you've had a lot of growth in this journey since 14, and then you came in on 20, I think 2020.
That's exactly right.
What's kind of really accelerated the growth lately?
Yeah, so, we call it Raw Sugar 1.0, 2.0, and we're looking forward to 3.0. 1.0 is the story I just told you. Brick and mortar, building categories, creating something in the main aisle. 2.0 really came out of COVID. I mean, we needed soap. We were a brand, and we can talk a little about our supply chain that was prepared for the moment. And so we were on the shelves, ready to meet our customers. We won actually Brand of the Year at Target in 2020 in the toughest of market. But what 2.0 was, and eventually we took on investors, was really, well, what are those other channels and where do we need to be? So now we're in the digital space. We're in DTC through Shopify, we're in through Amazon. We're in not only Target, but Walmart and a lot of other places. But the key part is that first part of the brand's journey was finding the people who were looking for us, who were looking for a clean value alternative. When we became 2.0, we really call it under Clean for All. And I always think about it as the all, which is everyone should want better ingredients. Everyone should want a price that they can afford. And that's not always the case. And so our kind of brand mission has become, how do we bring clean to more people and more healthy opportunities? And we can talk about it in the context of the categories we play.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you have a great category, you differentiate yourself, now you got to scale it. And I think that's about halfway through this journey, you got to think about this growth scale. And you decided obviously to take on some PE funding, but what drove that decision for the additional investment and how you're using it?
Yeah, sure. So the first half of the question, which I thought you were going to go, the answer was going to be survival. I took on this job in the middle of COVID and remote on QuickBooks, not knowing how much inventory we had or how much money we had in the bank. And so we initially pivoted. Within 90 days, we're in NetSuite. And that was really a survival mechanism for us, because the first lesson of business school for me was, like a backpacker, know where you are, know how fast you're moving, and know what your resources are. And so that really released us into the potential for the market. The next level was really understanding with humility, and especially our founders, what we didn't know. And so now we're not a founder brand, we're a leadership-led brand with a CEO came from Johnson & Johnson, a supply chain lead from Unilever, so really a team that it takes to do this.
Did I hear this correctly? You put in NetSuite in 90 days? Is that?
We did, and some of the cool people who did it with me, I'll call out Aquani Consulting. They were amazing. And Jim, who's in the fourth row, who I hired and told them this needs to happen.
Right, that is amazing. Well, I mean, in the impotence to getting to new technology, moving off your old system to NetSuite was what? Did you need a holistic change?
No, you know what? I've been in the middle market for 20 years. Yes, survival was moving out of QuickBooks and it being a more dynamic. And our business is really built on partnerships. We don't do a lot. We do well over $100 million in revenue with less than 40 employees. We do that because of the partnerships. So we source our componentry. We have fillers who have their own employee bases. We have 3PLs. We have quality people. And then we've got the customers. And so a platform like NetSuite for us allows us to use tools like EDI, NetSuite Planning and Budgeting, Shopify, plug into Amazon, have a great relationship with our 3PL, but we can't touch all those transactions. And so it's really leveraged us to everywhere we want to go. Just this year, we went into Canada. We implemented foreign currency translation.
Right, and so how much of your business now is domestic versus now getting into that international
It's
category?
still overwhelming domestic, and I think that's a statement. We're in now Mexico doing well through a distributor relationship, and Canada just launched in the last 6 months. But based on a show of hands, I bet in this room, not enough people know about raw sugar, so that's partly why I'm here today.
And it's good enough to sit on the counter. It's beautiful enough to sit on the counter. That's a great
That's what
category.
Donda would tell you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a products company, I think you mentioned about this collaboration and how you bring all this integration together across your supply chain. And, you know, inventory, certainly during the pandemic and lotions and thinking about liquid soap is really critical. But just think about the complexity of your business of how you manage your supply chain, stock outs or your fill rates.
Yeah.
How does that go in the business?
So I'm going to answer the question the way I would talk to my teams. We're a value-driven business, and so our value is in our relationship with our customer and the quality and the value we deliver, but it's also with our partners. And the reason we were successful in 2020 is because it's important to us, our fill rate. Like, it's important for us to deliver what we say will, because an out of stock at Target is a lost sale for Target. And so that's our principle, is that we have to invest the capital in order to have the right inventory in the right place. So how do we do that? It's hard.
Right.
But if one, you have a good view of who you are, the velocity of your sales, to the time and the partnership you have with your supply chain and how long it takes, you can build a process and a system to understand that and build a timeline for the days of inventory you need. But I'll tell you, I'm here also as a consumer of NetSuite, and listening to Bill and just talking about what he was talking about, how he advises his channel partners, like Target, like Walmart, on how to get velocity at the shelf level. Well, it's the same thing. And you know, my expectation is AI, the first place it'll drive is supply chain and demand planning for us. It'll have a massive impact because we can take in all of the levels of dimensions,
Right.
but we try.
Well, I think it's an interesting one. I mentioned about maybe half the group here is dealing with supply chain disruption and so forth. And that goes down to your supplier management, your supplier strategy, single source, multiple suppliers, and you have a lot of disruption that's happened over a little bit. But maybe just talk about that from complexity, because your revenue per head is off the charts great.
Yeah, so the first thing is, not to be political, but the tariffs are helping the American economy. I just, like, that's not my politics, but it has made it more affordable to do US-based manufacturing, to seek out things like componentry, like bottles and caps, and being closer. The same with the ocean freight impacts. I mean, we went through a lot of volatility in 2020 and 2021, and we've had a lot this year. So shortening your supply chains really makes a difference. There's a lot of economics in there. But the hard part is finding the right partners. But if you treat people well, my experience is they treat you back well, and you pay the right value price, but also you give them and they understand your business, you have good communication. We're able to succeed in that fashion and depend upon them, really.
That's great to bring, to hear about where you're focused in domestic manufacturing and fulfilling. That is fantastic. What has happened? I mean, your first category was kind of this liquid soap, right? And then you've created some other categories of your second act, but maybe just explore what that looks like.
I actually went to Donda, our founder, after we chatted. I said, tell me the story again. And the story was really personal care, body wash, liquid soap. They went to Target and they said, we think there's a place every day at an everyday price for clean. But there was a white space there. And so what she said is what's happened consistently is that then they noticed the white space in hair. So they went towards that. And right around when I came on, they were talking about going towards kids and natural deodorant. And again, natural deodorant in the last 3 years has completely changed through Native, through Lume. But these categories did not have a main position. If you go down today You'll see Dial and Dove with their natural options. But these were categories created by brands like us that drive it. And so what drives us, and I'll give you one of the things we're most excited about, and you'll be 7,000 people more than knew before, is we're trying to find categories that people are not thinking about that we want to change. And August 1st, we launched our fur kids. So we have a kids line, and the conversation about a year ago is like, well, what about if you don't have kids, but you love your pets? Don't they deserve clean ingredients? So we're coming out with that as of just 3 weeks ago, and we'll bring it out online. But it's partly our brand message, it's our brand values, it's partly to empower our employees to feel that we really walk our values.
Right.
And we could talk a little more about even how we express that in other ways.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I love the story of starting with a simple, category and then expanding it. And I think, about talent war and culture, et cetera, there's something I think unique that you all are doing, and that's about giving back. And I think one of the important elements of your founder was, how do we give back and impact the local community, but we also have this business journey of exponential growth. So
Yeah.
what do you guys do in this area?
So one of the cool things is when you have founders who are in their early 50s, they lived a full life. They really understood what meant something to them, what made them want to put their time into it. And the give back was a massive piece of this. The name Raw Sugar, we barely have any sugar in our products. The name Raw Sugar exists because life is the raw stuff, the hard stuff, and the sweet stuff. And we wanted to build, and they wanted to build a brand that cares about things. So it's also gone through its iterations. The first was a give back, where if you bought something, we would donate a bar of soap to a shelter in need. It got so big that the warehouses started getting rejected. So now today we work with organizations, our two largest ingredients, Water for People, which brings water to communities that don't even have their own in their community. And then we work with falling off my name, I'm forgetting the name of the organization, but it's an organization called EcoSoap that actually works to take used bars of soap from hotels around the world, empower unemployed women, and have them refurbish it, and then also then sell it to the communities.
And it is great. I mean, anything you take back for culture and values. I mean, NetSuite's a firm believer in social impact and giving back, but it is great to hear customers like yourselves, a bar of soap, I mean, that is a major impact. Okay, so maybe to wrap it up, if you were to do it all again, and you had a lot of different things that you've done now within the company, with investment and technology, different channels, you had a do-over. Anything you would change and do differently?
So this was the hardest question. They do give us the questions before we come, so I did know the questions. I really thought a lot about this on the weekend. And the thing, and I drew a line through all my experience, I've worked with a lot of founders, is the biggest thing a founder brings to you is a level of certainty and discipline on what the mission is. And that was an understanding of the customer and what they wanted and what they needed. And what I've found is we're never, once you become professional as we have, you're never close enough to the customer. You can never do enough customer meetings like this is set up, enough online surveys. And so I always feel like I want to know more about who they are. Yet when Donda and Ronnie were more deeply involved in the business, it was kind of like they were just in the room with us. And so we really, as every business needs to focus on how do you keep your customer, the person who you're creating value for, how do you keep them in the room with you? Because or else you get lost.
Right. No, it's a great piece of it. I mean, keep the North Star, right, and stay focused on the mission. So,
hard.
Well, thank you so much. Raw Sugar is a great testament of growth here.
Amazing.
Thanks. Clean for all. I think that was a great tagline in there. That I think, I hear about these stories of growth, and I think that is the power of bringing all these NetSuite users together, is continuing to share the stories of how companies are succeeding out there. So this next customer, why don't we bring up, is Diligent. Let's have a quick play.
Diligent is redefining how organizations approach governance. Businesses around the globe use the Diligent One platform to gain a comprehensive view of governance, risk, compliance, audit, and ESG data. Impact and accountability are at the core of Diligent's offering, which serves more than 700,000 business leaders in 130 countries. Please show your appreciation for Diligent Corporation's Chief Executive Officer, Brian Stafford.
Brian,
Sam,
welcome.
thank you.
You know, Brian's having a customer conference here too, across the way, and so I don't know how we pulled you out.
Yeah, I gotta say, we have a customer conference going on, as you mentioned, and I was so blown away by the 700 customers that we had show up and be in a room. And I gotta say, 7,000 is pretty darn cool. So you got a 10x growth.
All
That's
right,
the whole goal,
we're
right?
trying. We're trying to do our
Yeah.
best. Well, thanks for joining us here. You know, it is great to hear about Diligent's story. It's kind of an interesting one when I talk about growth and scaling your business. And I mean, you've been around now for decades, I think, from a Diligent. Probably I bet you a lot of our customers already have some of the Diligent products in there, and probably some other ones will start surfing into it a little bit more after this. But tell us a little bit of the journey now with Diligent.
Yeah, so I joined Diligent a little over 9 years ago. And Diligent at the time was a publicly traded company, oddly enough on the New Zealand Stock Exchange, less than 100 million in revenue. And we, through expanding, have grown to some well over 600 million of revenue today. We went from a public to private transition, a bunch of different investors, and have grown to nearly a little over 2,000 employees by focusing on our clients and expanding our products to meet the needs of our growing needs of our clients.
That's interesting. So you went from a public market to a private piece of it. Did you dabble into private equity then, I'm assuming, to that journey at all? Or?
We do. We have investors. I'm sure most people in this room have investors. And so we had a private equity firm, Inside Venture Partners, who took us private. And then have had our partners from Clear Lake Capital and Blackstone as well to help us grow.
That is great. I mean, we see an awful lot of investment going into a lot of NetSuite customers. I think there's going to be some interesting things to talk about how you've grown to today's piece of it. I mean, you're in 100 plus countries, I think it was, and $600+ million in revenue. You know, making decisions as a growth piece of it, certainly as a CEO, what do you think about? I talk about growing product lines or acquisitions. How has it been for you?
Well, we've done a little bit of all of those.
Okay.
Growing product lines, acquisitions. I think when I joined Diligent, we were a very straightforward, simple board management platform that allows you to send basically your most sensitive information out to your board members. We then allowed you to do other governance-related features, D&O, insurance, board evaluations, et cetera. And we've basically been very much led by what our customers have asked for. And we found over the course of the last 9, 10 years, what the board and the C-suite has cared about is not just governance, but areas of risk and compliance. And I think we've all lived through quite a bunch of new risks over the last 4 or 5 years, and whether it's pandemic, climate, always cyber, and so much more of C-suite time is spent on dealing with all these other issues that might get in the way of your driving that growth.
Yeah, it is interesting because you have the board's product, your core product, if you will. This is in the intro I talked about how do you balance acquiring new customers versus getting more out of your existing base? And I think, decisions about increasing the wallet share of your existing customers versus new audiences, how do you balance that?
Yeah, so I'll talk about each of those. We're fortunate enough to have some 70% of the Fortune 1000 use our products. But the reality is we have way more private companies that use our products than even public companies.
Oh.
Just the sheer number of companies. So there's a huge opportunity for us from a new client acquisition perspective. And I hope if folks are not aware of Diligent, you can go and check out what we do. But on a new client acquisition side, there's still a ton of white space and a ton of opportunity. But then on the product line perspective, it's once you have all these great clients, how do you find ways to have more impact as you expand your products to them? And so we see a ton of opportunity by increasing our share of wallet within our client set.
Yeah, I mean, I think this will be an interesting one because we love the suite. We love how the suite operates and that piece of it from a NetSuite perspective. Expanding your ecosystem is probably one of the big things as you got into the markets that you're at and just pure geographies, 130 countries. But how has that been with the ecosystem? Have they, acquiring, the product? Have you been through distribution channels?
Yeah, so ecosystem and growing the ecosystem is a really big growth area for us. Despite our scale, we probably don't have as much. We should be working with a lot more partners to help drive our growth. So big opportunity for us to grow across our client set. And we offer integrations with 130 different systems into our Diligent One platform to help to create more opportunities for our partners. And I'm really excited that we recently launched a partnership with NetSuite around pulling some of that NetSuite data into our board management platform. So why did we do that? Just give a simple use case for the people in the room. With private equity investors over the course of the last 3, 4, 5 years, with a Silicon Valley Bank crisis, with massively increasing interest rates, we got a lot more questions from our investors, and each investor tended to ask slightly different questions. And you're sending all this information out there kind of to your investors. And what we actually did was, for us, we built a connector into NetSuite to have that information show up into our reporting and board application for our investors. And it saved our finance and accounting team a ton of time because they weren't doing these one-off analyses. They were always available. And so whether it's, what is your DSO and your collections, or whether it's, cash in whatever location. So
right.
It's a huge opportunity to expand from a network and ecosystem play.
It is great. I mean, it's great that you're a Suite app partner too, which is great now that you're on that program. Let's talk about expansion, because the ecosystem is part of that. Your geography and international expansion is quite cumbersome, I'm sure, as well, when you think about the geographies in so many different countries that you're in. But expanding internationally and overcoming some of those typical challenges that a lot of companies face, whether it's funding or a market or product awareness, how have you guys kind of overcome some of that?
Yeah, I mean, we have offices in Canada, US, London, Ireland, Australia, Singapore. You can go beyond that. And there's still an opportunity for us to open up new offices and new locations, new geographies. It's back to your thing around adding in layers of different kinds of growth. That is an area where we can continue to add more growth. For us, it's always, I'd love to say there's a more systematic approach, but when you're breaking into Germany, when you're breaking into France, part of it comes down to the team and the folks you have on the ground, and that's always what you're trying to optimize, make sure you have the right people.
We've seen so many customers expand in these different countries all over, and as a big company within Oracle, we have a lot of resources. It's certainly dynamic within mid-sized companies to expand there. So let's talk about the growth that, and I think compliance is a great kind of topic for a lot of companies today. Is it been fairly steady within the compliance? Did you see just an uptick recently, or is it, how does that kind of the unforeseen challenges of just maybe the market dynamics of investors and what's going on in the
Yeah, what I'd say is exactly to your point. I'm just the bar for compliance just continues to go up in the expectation. And whether you're in the EU and you have to disclose pay information by gender once you reach 50 to 100 employees, or whether you have to have a whistleblower hotline if you're in the EU. And so just the compliance burden continues to grow. And so what we've tried to do with our clients is just make it as simple as possible to turn that on. Because the reality is, for most, we know we have to do compliance, but how do you reduce that tax, for lack of a better reason, and make it just much easier for everybody in this room to just focus on growing?
So are more and more customers coming to you saying, can you just give us the out of the box?
Out of the box, just very, very easy. What does compliance as a service look like? How can we do it? Because the reality is you have to add someone on your team, you have to figure out how to do something, you have to buy some new software. So how do we lower that bar as much as possible to make it super easy for you to get started?
Right. Well, the new topic today has been AI and artificial intelligence and what that's bringing to market. How have you been thinking of this as a software and services company, right? Bringing AI into your products and your go-to-market. How has that evolved now?
Yeah, it's super, super big deal, bigger opportunity for us. We talked a lot about it with our customers over the last few days. And I think about AI in the space that we operate in two different ways. One, it gives you the opportunity to make sure you don't miss stuff. Those insights that you have to have your team going through and running it out, how do you actually be smart about, make sure you're not missing something? And whether it's missing something in your financials on financial risk, or in cyber or other spaces, I think it's a big opportunity. And the second is, we were talking about compliance, but a good amount of what we do are things that are, investing in compliance doesn't drive more growth. Right? And so when I look at AI, look at how can we get you more efficiency lower the cost, more automation to make sure that you can still meet the burdens of every country that you operate in, but how do we lower the cost of it materially? And like all of our clients say, look, we're asked to do more with less. And so I think AI has a huge opportunity to help to turbocharge that for our clients. Like I said, I could see the way it worked in our integration with NetSuite for our finance and accounting team, and so it'll just happen in so many different places. And so I think it'll be a game changer for our clients.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that. There's so many different use cases out there. We continue to talk about One Oracle, and for NetSuite, it has been taking more and more of Oracle capabilities to the NetSuite customers. And so obviously all of our NetSuite customers are running on OCI, but you've had an opportunity now to use a lot of NetSuite, but maybe talk about what you're using within NetSuite and Oracle products together.
Yeah, so we've been a long-standing NetSuite client. It's cool to talk about some of the scale potential that NetSuite has, from using NetSuite as a public company when I joined with kind of 80 million of revenue, to using NetSuite as a private company with over 600 million of revenue across way more geographies, and just helped to give us the opportunity to scale, helped to give us the opportunity to drive multiple integrations of acquisitions and stuff like that. And then so we've added onto it our NetSuite professional services automation. And then we've also added to it Oracle Fusion HCM Cloud to it as well, just to be part of that whole ecosystem. And it's interesting, when I was telling you all about the partnership we launched with NetSuite, we've also now integrated Oracle HCM into our board application too. And now our board and many of our clients get to see talent reporting as well. Again, it's more efficient, show all the information you need. It's actually helped to be you talked about collaboration and partnership, and it's a great opportunity.
It's a great story too. I mean, exactly, I think how Oracle wants it to happen, but naturally, as your business needed to grow, we have solutions for you.
I think there's a ton more opportunities for that over time.
Right. Okay, so now for all those businesses that are thinking about these hyperscalers and raising either more money or perhaps going into the public markets and additional insights, I mean, what would you give them for advice here?
Yeah, for so many of our clients, it is, with uncertainty with the public markets, we find most of our clients are just starting to build the right governance and compliance practices early. It can be quite low cost. It's not making a major investment, and so many of these things are role modeling and these activities before you ultimately go public. And we find with so many investors out there, the idea of having a more professionalized governance has just become so logical. And so we hear a lot of our clients helping us out, asking us to help them out with it, 2-3 years even before going public, because it's kind of just the right thing to do.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. So I think about your next as a company and Diligent piece of it, but you have your user conference going on. I'm sure your customers are probably looking at what's next, but what's next for Diligent now?
Yeah, I think just continuing to partner and double down with our clients. Our clients, all of you are facing all these increasing burdens. All we're focused on, myself included, is how you can drive growth in your business, how you can scale, how you can open up new channels and new markets. But we have complexity, we have risk, we have the compliance we have to deal with. And so the theme that with our incredibly fast growing clients is how can you help us, Brian, make sure that we can take care of those things that could actually get us into trouble, but make it easy so we can still drive growth. And that's the partnership that I look forward to with our clients.
Keep them in the lane, right? Keep them in the lane. Well, it's been very insightful. I appreciate you sharing some piece of it. Last things in Vegas, you play cards, you gamble, any...
I'm in the risk space.
So you're in bed by 9, is what you're telling me.
Get an early night's sleep and make sure you can get up and do work. And so,
right.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thanks for coming out and sharing your story.
Much.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, I think there's thousands of stories to tell with NetSuite, but thank you for all the customers out their stories. There's more to come for sure. When I think about the value streams, we focus a lot on features and functions, but I think hearing customers tell their stories and each of those is really important. For those ready to disembark here, we're at the time. We have a culture and inclusion general lunch session that's hosted next door, so hopefully you'll join us for the culture and inclusion session for lunch. And then tomorrow afternoon, we're back in this main room for the product keynote and hear all of the latest features coming with NetSuite. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your afternoon.